You can hear me clear, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So let's see. The stream is online. Oh,
And get for this. So what's your show called exactly?
it's called Real Talk Crypto, and
Real Talk Crypto, all one hashtag, I guess.
yep,
Real Talk Crypto. I'll just make it all lowercase. Real Talk Crypto.
this should go. Hey, what's up?
Crypto.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, let me give you this. Send it to you in Twitter. The Twitter.
Korean. Yeah. Sure. What do we want to say the show theme is? Like Catch Kieran and I discussing crypto? What are we discussing?
We are discussing, well, the name of it is Kazonomics, trading anything that moves. And we're going to be talking about, your trading style, how you got into this market, what do you think, where are we going, what's going on, and we'll see where it goes. It's the whole concept and the flavor of this show is to have a real conversation with players within the game. And,
Okay.
We'll see what goes on.
I understand that certain nuances of my style I'm not going to divulge, but what I can, I will.
Yeah,
You know,
of
I won't
course,
leave
of
you
course.
everything, right? So
Yeah, no.
Catch Koreans, you and I discussing. I'm trying to think of a clever way to write this. Real talk hashtag. Like I got to make it look good. Catch Koreans, you catch me talking with Koreans. Let's do catch myself
Yeah.
and
Well,
you discussing trading all markets, discussing trading all things that move, discussing trading all things that move. I'm not putting my own name in my own post. That's crazy. On Real Talk.
So let me.
Real Talk. I'm not putting my own name in. Okay, and then of course I gotta have an emoji for you because what's the conversation without an emoji?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Twitter as well and like what that was like back in the day.
What do you mean? What Twitter was like back in?
Yeah, before
in
there was
2014?
before like a whole flood of new people came. I mean, it was kind of like niche at that point.
Oh.
And then, all right, so
Okay.
everybody
Let's
that's
see.
watching,
Should I just retweet you? I should
yeah,
retweet you. Huh?
yeah, you can do
Let's
that.
do that.
That's easy. See,
Let's
it wasn't too
Let me
witty,
find you.
but it gets the point across.
I'm trying to find something clever. You just one up me.
Nah, I keep it simple, man. Let me send this to my Telegram.
All right, same. Yeah, we usually use the Google Hangout. I find that's kind of pretty easy to manage that one too.
Yeah, I guess, you know what, to be honest, because I'm new at this, I need to up my technology type thing. So I used a Pure In because box mining told me it was good. And funny story, I was actually interviewing this guy, Mike Kayamori. He's the CEO of CoinX. And it was my first AMA. And I used this at Pure In because box mining told me it was cool. And I didn't have the pro version, right? So basically, if you don't pay for the pro version, you can't lock the room. And the whole domain and everything is open for people to see. So what happened is I'm interviewing the CEO. It's a legit project. And within 10 minutes of the interview, it's going well. All of a sudden, somebody joins the conversation. And this guy goes, what's up, what's up, what's up? Like that, like right during the Carlos Matos times. And Mike is looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? And, is that your friend? And I'm like, no, I don't know what's going on. And, I'm trying to kick him out, but because I didn't have pro version, I didn't have the ability to do so. So he ended up leaving on his own. Then another guy joined. I was just waiting for a dick pic to come up, or something bad. And so I go, okay, I'm pausing the stream. 1 second, guys. It's like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I thought I paused the stream, but I didn't. And then here I am entering my credit card information live on YouTube.
To try to stop it.
Yeah, and everybody's going, no, you're putting your credit card in, and I had to end up killing the stream and canceling my credit card. But long story short, that brings me to here now with Kazonomics. If you're not on crypto Twitter and following him, I suggest you do. I've been following this gentleman for some time, and I find him to be fascinating. And I think he's a perfect candidate for Real Talk Crypto because he goes against the norm. He does things a bit differently, and there's a lot of things about his strategy and his style that really interests me, and I'm excited to talk to you. So I appreciate you joining.
No worries.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, great to be here, man. It's nice to meet you formally and put a face and voice to the Twitter account.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm somebody that's been in the game for a little over a year. And how long have you been trading crypto?
I came into the market in November 2013.
November 2013. And when did you join crypto Twitter?
I mean, my Twitter has been here since 2009, and I've always traded through it. Crypto Twitter, I guess, was there, and I guess you could say I integrated into that world into the second quarter of 2014.
Okay. So what were you trading before crypto, and what prompted you to get in?
Well, I actually stumbled on Bitcoin in 2009, but I'm not the most technologically savvy person you're ever going to meet. So the concept of a wallet and how you would keep it, I actually didn't understand it, and there was like nobody I knew who understood it. I was trading e-gold and these electronic gold versions that were precursors to the Bitcoin era. And when I stumbled on it, it was like one more digital currency, but I had no idea how I kept it. In my mind, I was like, so I had to keep this computer if I stick this on here for the rest of my life. Like, I didn't actually understand the wallet could go places, and I was like, this is just whatever. And I kind of didn't know how you keep it, so I kind of just passed it by. When I saw it doing what it was doing in late 2013, and it was coming up through 300, I kind of knew what I was looking at. It looked to me like the beginnings of the internet bubble, or at least the 1997, 96 eras of that market. So I looked at it and I thought I was looking at a fractal version of the internet bubble. So I went, full after it.
Interesting. So I guess in 2014, when did you? Well, maybe you don't. But I mean, what do you think the future is for this market, and how were you looking at it back then?
Back then, we had the Gawk situation really shortly after I got here, right. And it was a climax, much like most crash cycles. It looked like Armageddon was coming. I presented my emotional chart of Bitcoin to kind of show what I thought was coming. I thought we were in a bad phase. I presented the Wall Street cheat sheet in February. And then I drew up a Bitcoin version of it, looking at what I thought was, the likelihood of the path that it could take. That is pretty much where, emotion trading and human behavioral analysis in Bitcoin showed up in the market, was when I started showing that. And most people thought it was crazy, like most of my charts. And ultimately, that first wave happened. At that moment, what was the forward visibility of Bitcoin? It may look like a crash cycle like any other 1,000, I backed off of it. We kind of moved into trading equities, Forex, anything else that had good volatility while the market began to kind of erode in the back half of the year. When, I kind of detected something was up with it in the summer of 2015, and I had to hit the target of where I thought it could for the bottom, then, I was watching it and I could detect that there was actual activity in the order books that warranted closer scrutiny. And we later that year in 2015 did the Cash Cycle 1 show with Roger Ver and Ross Gerber, where we discussed that.
Right. Interesting. So, what?
It didn't look like the internet bubble yet. It looked like a bubble, but it wasn't of the magnitude like Litecoin winter, this last cycle.
Right.
This had the scale to be really damaging, and so that that I did compare to the internet bubble, but in 2013, 2014, it wasn't of that magnitude.
Yeah. So some of the people in the crowd want to know: are we near the bottom? What do you think?
I can only leave that answer inside my private channels. The answer to that question, though, is on Twitter. I just didn't make it stupidly obvious, but it's out there.
Okay. So, well, I
never make it easy. You got to work for it. Nothing in this life is free. Come on, man.
Well, nothing is free, but at the same time, I think based off of what I've seen off your Twitter, you think there's probably going to be a bit more blood. But, like you said, you do have private channels. So in your bio, and part of the title of this episode is, trade anything. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, what does that look like? I mean, you teach people how to trade any market based off of behavior analysis. Am I correct here?
Right. I guess like a form of behavioral finance. Yeah, looking at price in terms of the emotional structure of it. One of the reasons that Wall Street cheat sheet's so popular with the emotions on it, like what's behind me, is that everybody can kind of recognize those feelings in themselves across the tides in the market and across like the last couple of cycles. If you've been here from the 2014 market and through that bear market and been here in this one, most of the people that survived it can tell you about all those different phases because they saw it firsthand. That is more the approach that I take, with price. That I believe it's a function of the person, that's the participant that makes it.
And you know what?
What's that?
I'm somebody that I've seen your charts, and you've added like different like graphics and stuff. It looks like almost like it's like what's the word?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a good word. Like, they look kind of crazy.
I can see that look on your face.
Yeah, but the more I've looked at it, it's like, I become more curious, and at the end of the day, you can't argue with results. So,
Right.
so part of the genesis of this conversation here is a good friend of mine that I started trading with, a year ago. This guy Mayuru, he's always swore by you, and he said you take a different approach, but it's really educational, and it's legit, 100%. He swears by it, and that's good enough for me. So, tell me a little bit about, I know I'm not going to ask you to give your secrets and your teachings, but like, what does that look like? Who are you teaching? What do you guys do? What are you guys up to over there?
I mean, I'm a fair person. I mean, when I started trading, in late '90s, I ran into your version of OGs, like guys that just got basically lucky holding a tide sitting there and swore it equaled intelligence. So when you get there and they're like, hey, you got 20 million bucks, you should be pretty smart.
Right.
I'm just 20 years old. I have no fucking idea what's going on. Like, what do you think?
Well, as you know, I mean, in life, you meet people that have money. It doesn't necessarily mean they're smart.
Right. When you're 20, you don't know that. So,
Yeah.
as a young person, when I came out and I saw people that, on first appearances, I would guess, well, you must know what you're doing. You're in a hedge fund, so you should be pretty smart. What do you
Right.
think?
Right.
Right. And just like you see in the market today, right? The hedge fund doesn't mean you know shit. You could be in the DM of a parody account asking for hot tips. It doesn't really mean a damn thing. Right. But if the suit looks good, then hey, fuck it. Right.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to sell you the impression.
Speaking of appearance, I mean, people are asking about your helmet. I recognize it from Daft Punk, and obviously you don't want to expose your identity, but
Oh, I don't care about that so much. The identity is
no,
not actually the issue. It's more
really.
about the idea of perception of messenger. You know, um, from when I was younger, right? When I first was in college, I would wake up every morning and turn on CNBC to see what they say every morning. I watched like Mark Haynes and all. He passed away. He was a really funny CNBC anchor. Maria Bartiromo, all the crew that was there in the late '90s, and I would see all their guest analysts and look at how they made calls on price. And I was like, when they miss, I'd mark it down. And I was like, he sucks. I was like, how did he get into Piper Jaffray? Like, that guy sucks. And so I would be like, I can look at the price and see where he made his mistake. And I would work on trying to solve, how did you miss? Like, you're on the gun. You're in front of TV, in front of the world. Like, that's the last place I'd want to make a fucking ass of myself, Let's go out here and it's going to go up, and wrecked. So I don't want my name tied to that shit. So I looked at it and I'm like, how did you ever get in that fund and suck so bad? You've been on TV 4 fucking times and you missed. And so I kept on looking at that, and I'm like, well, if I ever get a chance to do that, I want to suck that bad. So I worked on my execution. I worked on the logic, and I tried to find like the holes in why I would miss and why they would miss, and kept on working at that for a period of time, because my ultimate goal when I was younger is I wanted to be like a technical analyst for one of the funds that were getting on the TV. And I wanted to beat the guy that I saw when I was in my dorm. I'm like, he sucks. I can beat him. So it was more of a competitive thing. I just wanted to be accurate. And, if you're an expert, one guy told me in the mortgage world, he said, if you went to a cardiologist and you had like heart problems and you had a blocked artery, you would go to 8 cardiologists to get second opinions to make sure you know what's going on. If 7 of those guys told you a different answer, you should knock them all out, right? Because they can't be experts with all different answers. And I kind of related that to the markets. Like, how can so many people miss up and down? This is
Well,
a binary operation.
I would
right?
tell you, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but in life, it doesn't matter. So before crypto, I worked in healthcare. I wasn't a trader. I wasn't a finance. I wasn't a tech guy.
Okay.
But I worked with doctors. And I will tell you that 80% of those doctors were fucking awful. I wouldn't let them touch a family member, or I would feel bad about them seeing any patient.
It's closer to 90.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was going to get to. The top 10% is the only people you want to deal with. There's the second level of 10%, from 10 to 20, are like barely passable. You know? But you really want the top 10%. And the same goes for any profession.
So are technicians, so your lawyers, so are your guys on CNBC, so everybody.
So are your taxi drivers. You know, everything is the same. And
most taxi drivers are certified stunt drivers. But most people don't know what the fuck they're talking about and count on you knowing less in order to sell you that bullshit. So, the appearance was just a play on that. I'd watch these analysts on TV dressed in these great outfits, completely as bad as any noob in school. I'm like, what's the point? Like, after years of watching it too, and not realizing that, hey, just because you have that job and you have that position doesn't mean you're actually skilled at what you're doing. You might have nepotism, you might have like the right relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I didn't know that in the beginning, so I was just trying to figure out how to be more accurate than the guys who got there.
So people, there's a lot of discussion in the chat about your helmet.
Right.
See,
this is a joke on that, because ultimately, the fancy suit can let that guy tell you a load of horseshit for 5 fucking years.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as he looks right,
he can tell you whatever he wants. Right. So I've got a suit.
Yeah.
That's all I needed, right? To tell you whatever the fuck I need to. I got a suit, bitch. What the fuck time is it?
Well, I would say this. At the end of the day, like, when it comes to my money, the only thing that matters
is the helmet.
Is the results, okay? Right. And I managed, and I don't want to get into my history, but I managed a $20, $30 million healthcare business. I managed 11 offices. And, I'm somebody that I don't care about color, man, woman, gay, trans, any of that shit. Right. The only thing that matters to me is, can you get the fucking job done? I don't look at it that way. But for whatever reason, it seems that you think that, well, this is sensitive, but
not everybody's like you.
Oh yeah, of course, and you can see that. And the whole thing is, like, you have this helmet on, you look ridiculous, but at the same time, if you're a person with intelligence and you listen and you follow what Kaz is saying and you listen to the man talk, I've never heard you talk before. I'll be honest.
Did you watch any of my shows? What do you say?
No, I don't watch anybody, honestly.
Rival show host. I can see how this is going.
Yeah, no, I don't. But to be truthful, I just pay attention on Twitter, and I didn't need to hear you talk to know that you're a very intelligent person.
That's all relative, actually. It might be people that you see against me might be much stupider. You never know. It's all a game of relativity. Right?
Yeah, whatever. You're breaking my balls now after being late, but.
I can do that. I'm on island time.
I'm on island time too. But anyway, the whole point that I'm trying to make is that, especially in crypto, it really shouldn't matter, like, who's delivering the information, as long as the information is good and the results are good. Now,
exactly.
One thing that gets me, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
I see a lot of females in the space.
Finally.
There are, well, I don't see a lot of females, but I see them. And
some are popping up.
Some that are popping up. Some are producing content. Some are saying, this space is male dominated. We don't get a chance. But to me, I'm like, okay, like, you can sign up, you can trade this market, you can do whatever you want. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a man or woman. If I was a woman, I'd look and say, okay, this is 90% male. I can use this to my advantage. I'm an opportunist. I'll be able to build a following just because I'm a woman. And then now that I produce fire content, I'll get even more followers. And like, I don't understand it, but I know that I'm curious to get your take on that.
In what regard that women haven't built a following with their minority position in the market in order to
Right.
click fire content?
Is that a fair assessment?
That
Like,
it's a male dominated
yeah,
market?
that it's
Yeah,
male
it definitely
dominated,
is.
and it's not inclusive of women.
It's not inclusive in any regard. In most markets, when they start, it's the people who are part of the pioneering phase of a market are never really around in the settlement phase. The guy who knows how to make the technology doesn't really know how to apply it. That's one of the real reasons why the neckbeards couldn't figure out what was going on in the market, because this coin's the best. Great. Swiss Army knife can do a million things. Doesn't mean anybody wants to fucking use it.
Right.
Utility is part of the value. So you can have a million coins with all kinds of functionality. If no one uses it, who gives a shit? When the market first forms, it's built on, the neckbeard mentality and the people who are part of like creating this community. That is the initial like culture that was here. Nobody likes change. It's like their baby. And when you walk into it and you do something different, the crowd mentality is to resist. That's just natural. People generally don't like change. Um, Women coming into the marketplace now in slightly greater numbers with greater visibility is meeting the exact same resistance any foreign body meets when they enter into a closed system. Crypto's adoption curve obviously is going to fit like most market adoption curves. Ultimately, you can't have the level of discrimination that's in crypto that's so like flagrantly on display, and then say the market can also be mass adopted if all of the participants in it can't participate. So it kind of gives you an idea where in the curve of the introductory to going towards a cash cow phase we are. But I think women have a valid point. You've seen it. You've seen them get attacked for their appearances and every single thing that looks like you're in middle school. You got Alan Silbert from a fucking hedge fund attacking women for wearing clothing. Like it's low class garbage behavior, but that's like the male white dominated market, right? To insult you based on appearances and demean your character in order to reduce your efficacy in the marketplace, simply because you have the position to do it. That's bullying 101. And that's what you see in crypto, the attack on people on superficial reasons, right? Hell, you got people talking about I have shitty English. Does my English sound bad to you? The
No.
reality is that that bully tactic used to defame your character is used to basically devalidate you. And in order to silence you, it's a tactic to silence people that aren't like you. And it's exactly as disgusting as it appears.
Oh, that's some deep shit right there.
No, I just spoke really fast. It sounds good, but let me do it like that.
No, but it's true. but at the same time, like, I don't know. You say it's a white thing, but I think people of all races, in some effect, will judge somebody based on their appearance.
Oh yeah, racism is a thing that every culture does. I've dealt with it from Chinese to
Yeah.
Indians. It's not something that's different.
Right.
That's prejudice, right? You have prejudice. Racism requires power, and to really discriminate, you have to have the ability to actually get somebody out of the way. I could say I hate your guts. You don't know who I am. I'm living in like fucking some third world country with like $10 in my bank account. I can't affect you. But if I'm
Right.
part of a fund and I speak with a power position that people respect my word, and I call you a degenerate bimbo in a bikini, I've immediately like tainted your entire imagery from a position of power. So that's the difference. In order to really have prejudice, you have to have power. And the ability to malign somebody's character from a perceived position of power is the danger. That is the problem. And that power is held predominantly by white males.
So, being that, obviously, one of the things that I noticed on Twitter was you have been in a lot of feuds, beefs, that type of stuff. Initially, I didn't really look too much into it, but people like, if I didn't do any research, I would have thought you were some quack that
Uh-huh.
was always, pulling the race card and
Right.
being a baby about stuff.
Until I
That's
made a giant thread full of all white guys saying the exact same thing until you recognize it was a pattern of behavior. Right. That's why I did
okay.
that, to prove a point. I saved all of that shit for years and then to put it all together. So you could watch, like, if it's one time, two times, you can call it coincidence. When I've got an army of guys that all have a problem with the way I type English versus like the $1 trillion calls I put on Twitter, what do you think that is?
Well,
I'm not dumb. I've been in business for 20 years here. I know exactly what that is. It took me demonstrating in a thread like that for you to get it. But I've always known that behavioral pattern. The one thing you have to think is, right, if you guys think I'm really accurate in analyzing markets with behavioral patterns, do you suppose that I got that behavioral pattern wrong? That's the one. I read people for a living. I didn't get that one wrong off the chart or on the chart. It's just a really uncomfortable truth to swallow.
Fair enough. I mean, I've seen it in other businesses and whatnot. I do think that there's definitely something going on there. I mean, it is what
It's
it is.
It's fucking
Yeah.
flagrant. How many
Yeah.
times have you seen me called a monkey? Like, be serious. That's like a fucking historically disgusting thing, and it's the weapon to use to demean you as a person. Ultimately, they can't go pulling my work up and me. Look at this shitty trade, right? They've been sitting on me personally for years because they can't find the missed trade. Their shit I can paint a fucking painting with. So what do you got? Attack the person. You can't attack the work. And that's, hallmark sign of dumbass. That's dumb money. That's why they just all got wrecked together coming down this hillside talking about I'm a monkey while they didn't realize LTC winter was in full effect. And they killed everybody who followed that bullshit.
Yeah. Well,
Karma's a bitch.
Hey, at the end of the day, the man who was right, that should be the standard.
That's what we all about, right?
That's it. It really should be. I mean, at the end of the day, who is right, who is wrong, who's consistent, what you can quantify that number, and whoever's the best is the best. It's like that in most other businesses, but
I mean, if a 6-year-old child made the LTC winter chart and made it exactly as I made it, would it change the validity of the information simply because it was a child that made it?
no. So
then information stands on its own 2 feet.
LTC winter, I did see that chart. You're 100% right. It was expert, but what was there ever a chart that you made that was 100% wrong? Like, what's your biggest loss? Like, do you
my biggest shit call that no one can dig up is actually a really shitty public call on Ether. I completely bricked it. I looked for a short on that thing, and that was literally the breakout when Ether broke to like $22 a coin. I actually was so mind-fucked by that I was only able to tell my channel that I think I fucked up. I wasn't able to flip the call publicly. That was an initial breakout when Ether first broke out. I myself wasn't able to long that thing till like 60 because I was so I was actually on a campaign to see Ether fucking fail like Litecoin. That's what trade I was doing. That's the way I deal with the situation, and completely blinded myself to the possibilities of like applications on top of Ether and what that would mean, fundamentally going forward. The price structure, I actually convinced myself wasn't doing what it was doing. And I publicly called a short on Vitalik. You can go back and look for that, where I was basically like harassing Vitalik that this coin's about to fucking come apart just like Litecoin all over again. And I blew that call. That was my shittiest fucking public call in crypto.
Interesting.
Yep, I lost my nerve to even comment on that until I went on CNBC Africa, and that was the next time I ever did anything public about Ether. And that's about after it hit $400 a coin. So,
yeah.
On a specific call on a specific asset, that was my worst.
So speaking of Ether, are you willing to give us any projection of where you think it's heading?
Ether at this time?
Yeah.
I mean, a direct projection right now, in order to do that, the market is pretty highly correlated. If I'm going to give you a direct projection in Ether, I'm going to be giving you a direct projection on every big cap coin out there with a degree of correlation. I have left enough stuff out there about the marketplace and timings and things like that, but obviously I don't leave them in places that are flagrantly obvious to, a lazy person. But the clues that I'm going to give publicly about big caps and timings and things like that I've already presented in the last 9 months.
Right, but some of the people viewing that will view this have no idea about crypto Twitter. They just watch YouTube videos. You're not willing to give them at least something?
Nothing's free. Go look. I have a Twitter. Go read. Yeah, nothing in this life that's worth a damn thing was ever handed to you. I'll never be that.
Oh man, yeah, I ain't mad at you. I understand, but see, people are saying things in the chat. As far, I have.
What you got? Secret chat? Oh, I forgot. There's a chat.
No, it's not a secret chat. There are people here.
I didn't see the chat on the side.
There's all sorts of stuff going on in that chat, and
I don't see it. It's our chat. Got it. Okay, go ahead. What's up?
I mean, it's very polarizing. You're a polarizing figure, as am I sometimes. But yeah, Twitter is free. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to keep up with the chat. It's hard when I'm like reading this, trying to have a conversation. There's all sorts of shit going on in there.
Take a grab bag, something less insulting. Let's go.
Yeah. So people are saying KJ is unprepared to speak to the master and blah, blah, blah.
What? In what regard?
I don't know. We're having a conversation. This is the format, number one.
Because you didn't bring your fucking mask and I told you.
KJ ain't keeping up with Kaz. Yeah, no, this guy, he's a different player. Okay, I have something good now.
Okay.
All right. So obviously, Kaz has been trading. He's been trading also everything, real estate, securities, stocks, crypto, this whole thing. I've already said that's not me. I'm not me. And my angle is that, I'm a guy that worked a job I hated a year ago
Right.
and was, in debt and didn't have anyone to help me. And I just kind of did it on my own. A year later, here I am. I've performed. I've built a following based off of my own merit. And, I've changed my life. And I want to help others do the same. But
Right.
I didn't, so there's something going on. You speak of these quote unquote OGs, people that were in the right place at the right time. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is results in life. You don't go back and say, hey, I was lucky or I was given this. It's here I am now. This is my life. And, you were there in the beginning and you saw what happened.
Right.
But these people come to you as somebody that they must have at least a business respect for. They respect your knowledge. Yet there's a challenge there because, at the same time, these were the same people that were ridiculing you. And now here they are in your DMs asking you for advice. And one thing that I noticed is that being that you're a trader, you're heavily...
That's not the flow of it, though.
Oh, okay. All right, so give me the flow. Give me the flow, because I don't want to misrepresent what happened.
Yeah, the order of it was that in 2014, if you looked, I actually just presented information, and if you asked me a question, I would help you learn it. I was very cordial with most people, just putting my own ideas out there and trying to have my analysis be accurate. That was really the only basis. I traded my own ideas, I did my own thing. And people that got curious about it, when they saw certain levels of accuracy, asked about it, and I would try to explain it. And ultimately, when I was done explaining it, I would get attacked by the exact same person publicly, but the shit they would say in DM, they never say public. So I started just saving it all, because I started realizing that was the game. Teach me how to do this, and I'll go out and present it as if it's my own idea and pretend I never heard of you. So every time you do that, I'll smash you in the face with your own fucking words. Don't do that shit. It's fucking disgusting and a fucking liar. If I helped you, be respectful of it. I took my time to do it. I didn't have to. But if you go out and try to assault me after you've been in my DM, I'll fucking smash your face in. If I can catch you physically, it'll happen physically. So don't play that game. I spend my time with helping people that, can show a little respect, and I'll help you do whatever the fuck. Fair is fair, right? Help each other out. Do what you expect other people to do for you. But if you spit in my face, I'm damn sure going to spit right back in yours. Karma's a bitch. I don't play that game. Everybody you saw get caught in DM, what were they doing? Being an asshole publicly while in my DM kissing my ass? Yeah, you should get exposed for being a fucking sellout piece of shit. Why the fuck not? We don't like people that in real life, right? You don't want to be coming over pretending to be your boy while they try to swipe your shit out of your house. Why the fuck is it okay digitally?
People do that. They get very confident on Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah. Well, I'm not from I'm not a millennial kid. I'm from the 80s and 90s. We'll take a crowbar to your ass. I don't play that shit at all. Anybody wants to fly here and try that where I'm standing and seeing you, try it. It won't work out. But, that's the game on Twitter. You have a lot of guys that grew balls because they're distant. That's cool. Real life will catch up to those people.
That's some people, I always thought that, but...
It does, because people continue to do things like that until somebody close enough to where they are fucking lets them pay for it. You can't keep being a scumbag and screwing over everybody. Eventually, you can screw over somebody that's where you are, and it will catch up to you. That habit will produce your enemy. So it's all right. I understand that, habitual pattern too. It's a price pattern like anything else. Keep fucking everyone you run into, and watch when eventually you have an army of people that really want to kill your ass. It'll eventually come back to you.
Yeah, I think most times it does, but I've seen people that have fucked everybody and they just kind of like go about their day,
You're never always around when it comes, but they will sow the seeds of their own demise with that habit. Eventually, everyone will realize that you'll backstab you when you help you, so they won't continue to be able to manipulate that situation. Even right now, it's like, your fund manager from Block Tower caught in my DMs. Eventually, everyone will realize what that guy's doing. Sooner or later, he'll run out of the capital necessary to keep that game up.
Right. So obviously the climate is way different right now compared to where we were, in 2017.
Right. Losses do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just sentiment alone, but as well as the market, obviously. What would you recommend? I mean, for people that were more investors that are not, studying the TA, they're more fundamental analysts, like said person. Do they have a hope, or has this just become a strictly trader's market? Can investors still thrive in this space if they do their research?
I mean, an investor, investor is all about time horizon, I guess, is what that word is used for. I don't personally make a distinction between trading and investing. right? If you hold something 3 years, you're an investor. If you hold something 3 days, you're a trader. Really that's just wordplay. The reality is, if you held an upswing for a quarter of a century like Warren Buffett, you're just a long-term trade, right? And if you held it for a week, you're a short-term trader. But prices don't really change in the time scales, do they? Do you know what time scale that chart is behind me? Unless I tell you, you don't know.
It's 4 hour? No.
That's a daily.
That's a daily. Okay.
So the fact is that price looks the same for an investor as it does for a trader, and you don't know until I tell you. So does it really matter if you keep using the label investor versus trader? Buy shit when it's going up, sell shit when it's going down. That's what makes logical sense. Does it matter what scale of time that is?
The only thing that matters is the price.
Bingo. So effectively, you and I are trying to do the same thing within 5 minutes or 5 years. Get out at a better price than I got in, and not lose my ass in the process, right?
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with that. Yes.
So keep it simple. Fancy words are for a salesman on TV.
Well, but still getting to the question.
Is there hope for an investor? Timing matters. All markets aren't always worth investing in all the time. Timing matters. So, do you buy houses when they're coming off a cliff in 2008 and say, well, I'm a hodler, I believe in it, it's a really good subdivision? No, you sound like a fucking retard, right? There's a time to buy the house, there's a time not to buy the house, like everything else. Apple computer is not a great price every single day of the fucking year, is it?
Yeah, no.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, so there's a time that you think it's a good idea to buy and a time there's not, so why does that change? Just once people are underwater, all of a sudden the justifications for staying underwater come out and they sound like retards. Well, hodl, well, it's a good project. Well, my grandma, well, kind of that bullshit. Then they're wrecked and they're like, oh, who fucking did this? Somebody called the government, Roger. That's what you get all that bitch feelings on Twitter for, because they don't have any common sense of why they're doing what they're doing. Got lucky in a bull tide, made up a bunch of shit that made it sound like that was the reason, and then when they went downwards, you found out they didn't know shit. That happens in every bull market. How do you think all the guys that made the millions missed the giant fucking pullback? They clearly didn't recognize the other direction, right? How can you say they didn't get lucky? But that's how they managed to lead the whole crowd off a cliff with them.
The money that left, obviously somebody left with the money.
Right, money's never lost, it's transferred, correct. To everybody who knew LTC winter was coming. Hey. Somebody gets it.
CoinDaddy says KJ is taken aback because Kaz is just saying the logical answer, then stopping. He's not rambling. No, I mean, I want to hear what he has to say. I'm digesting that as well as reading the chat at the same time. And
I'm to the point. I don't have a lot of fluff.
Yeah, so, no. It's, at the end of the day, we've never spoke one-on-one, and I am taking in what he has to say. It's logical, it's concise. And I'm trying to do the best I can to provide you people with an interview that's entertaining as well as informative. So, at the same time,
content matters.
Yeah,
that's right.
Content matters. There are certain questions that if I ask the questions that I want, Kaz will say that he's not going to give that for free. So here I'm trying to propose.
Well, you want a market pay?
I want questions that I'm going to get answers to. And that's
I'm giving you a thought process, right? Your investors and what they think of the current market state. It's not like, do you buy here, right? On CNBC or any of these news stations, when they bring you about, what do you think of Facebook today? You mean today at 3:52 p.m., like this fucking minute? I don't know, bitch. I need to look at it and really think about what my plan is. So when you put people on the spot to be like, hey, you think it should be a buy right now? Not this minute, maybe in a half an hour, but ultimately to answer the question on the spot like that is kind of irresponsible. I don't know that the person that's watching this understands that the answer is relative to next 4 hours, the next 4 years. And that's the danger. I'm really liking Facebook lately. Yeah. And that's all they leave you with. He didn't necessarily tell you that I like it for this week, but it might get fucking wrecked next month. So at the end of the day, you can, without providing proper context, you can actually endanger the person that's looking to just find a reason to FOMO. I don't do that. I don't put people in the position to harm themselves. So I make you have to think, because that's how you're going to better understand what you're doing so you don't get wrecked. That's the reason people are getting killed at it, because they want it easy.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing in life is easy.
They want everything easy and they want it for free.
Right. And you get easy and free, you get fucking demolished.
Yeah, absolutely.
That should be the point, right? All the guys who are complaining about paid groups, don't even seem to realize that the best accurate market calls came from a paid group publicly for free. So now what? Paid group plus the best public accuracy. What are you? All those guys that are complaining about that shit have nothing to say. They just led every person that followed them into a fucking train wreck. But yeah, I'm not going to give you something for nothing. You need to put some effort into it. You won't value it if I give it to you for free anyway.
Yeah, they'll just be looking for the next free advice.
Bingo. Yeah. So I'll create a dependent. How is that helping you? I don't believe in that at all either.
So Andrew asks, question, how important is velocity to you at this stage for BTC? Well,
velocity, and
as far
give
as
the context of that.
I believe he's talking about price action. I mean, if you look at the volume, I don't know, Andrew. Could you elaborate a bit?
Velocity, like
I mean, it's like how fast the price is moving. I don't know, how important is that.
I mean, markets, volatility is a cyclical thing. Markets increase in volatility and decrease rhythmically. The velocity of capital in the system is cyclical also, right? We're in a large-scale pullback, larger scale than GOX, and the velocity of capital in the system is obviously like ebbed away. When it was like ridiculous, we saw what the arc looks like. So, like I said, everything in the market is timing. And, at this time, does it look like the time to fire all your capital in? Of course not. But that was the same thing when you're talking about the decline of 2015. So it's a timing thing, and people just need to have patience. Let the market firm. When you look at the trend coming out of 2016, how much time did you have to participate? I mean, you didn't enter the market from 2015, but you were able to do pretty well, right? So did you require you to buy the absolute low, in the summer of 2015? No. That's the reason we talk about trends. Look how long the bull market of the United States is going. It's 9 fucking years. Did you need to be there in 2009 to make something out of it?
I have a question that I'd love to ask, but I know you're not going to answer it.
Go for it.
This is the problem.
Don't make assumptions.
So we've been in a bull market for 9 years. Historically, on average, we are definitely due for some sort of global economic crisis or some sort of collapse at some point.
Okay.
Yet it hasn't come yet. Not since 2008. How much time do you think is left before that happens, and what do you think would be a catalyst to cause something catastrophic?
I think, that is probably one of the dangers, is that people get themselves caught up in trying to find the end of the train rather than deal with the train. How long I think it could take, whether I said a year or 2 years, 5 years, is actually irrelevant to the fundamentals that are required to be there for it to actually occur. Speculating on when that thing could be is dangerous, right? That could create an idea in my mind that's more powerful than the reality of it not being here. That's what you're watching guys, telling me it's going to crash for the last 4 years that I've been out here public on Twitter. They've ultimately missed, over $10 trillion in market cap gains doing that. The reality is, I don't believe that's a useful concern of a person's time. I think, looking at the velocity of capital in the world today, the growth rates of population and the planet, I put a chart out there about the 100-year pattern of the Dow. And in that chart, I give a really good write-up on why I think it will do what it's going to do. But personally, I don't see a massive global, recession on the horizon. That's not something I think is like the next thing coming for us.
So you're just taking it, you're playing it as it comes, and
breaking all-time highs until you give me a reason to get out. Why should I?
Right, but there's nothing in your mind globally that could be looming on the horizon that would cause something bad.
I mean, you can have lots of shocks, and the credit system is always your main concern. It's not quite the same kind of credit system as it was in the housing bubble, the regulations being loosened to what they were, and the bulk of credit being far riskier that was in the system and leveraged and, mixed in with these mortgage-backed securities. You have different problems, car loans and things like that are eroding at faster paces, and commercial credit itself is also starting to show higher default rates. But all the metrics that you require to be there to really have like a large-scale deflationary, press is not in place like it was in 2008. I gave guidance on that, in January 2008, that we'd be having a banking crisis because I was dealing with the banks and I actually could see the liquidity crisis firsthand. So I knew they were insolvent, about a year and a half before Main Street could figure it out. In this world, I'm not touching that part of the system anymore to really see the back end of it, but I understand how to read, various metrics that tell me of those warning signs. And You have some localized system problems like Italy and the Greeces of the world that have had their own like internal issues within the EU,
What
but
about like
nothing is
the
like
auto loan uh, in America?
not a big enough segment of the market to cause the kind of like knock on effect that subprime loans caused.
Right.
They've stretched out the term, they've higher default rates, and ultimately there's like increasing risk in those markets. And with the Fed increasing like short term rates, they're increasing risk in the overall system. But the full metrics that you need to be in place to really have a full blown credit crisis haven't fully emerged yet. You do have some very stark warning signs in the system, but the one thing is the system doesn't really lead too much. Like the implosion comes almost in real time. And the metrics that you need to see going like haywire that would kind of give it away will be obvious before it does it. Not to everybody, but I know what to look for that would give me a good indication to be worried that this thing could come apart any minute. And I don't see those right now. Trump's fiscal policy is nothing like the fiscal policy that's been seen in the last 20 years. He's on a protectionist campaign. He's actually issuing tariffs to trading partners. He's changing trade deals. Forward visibility on like what he's doing is very hard to ascertain. The fiscal policy he's doing is highly inflationary on the producer level, so he's offsetting federal credit withdrawal from the system. So a lot of metrics are different than anything you've ever seen in any of the other booms in our cycle. With rates also approaching close to negative flat for America, that was never seen either. So the fundamental underpinnings of this boom aren't actually shaped a lot like what people are comparing previous booms to, which is why they're missing the call. Did you
No.
catch all that?
Yeah, no, I did actually.
I'm wordy.
No, it's a fantastic answer and something that evokes a lot of own personal thought. Now, what about this whole notion that, like, if you had to answer this, because there are two different schools of thought. I would say the most popular and logical is that when markets go down, traditional
Mm-hmm.
markets, cryptocurrency you can also expect to go down, because you assume that some of the same players, if they're losing money in stocks or securities or whatever, that they're not going to
Uh-huh.
go to something riskier like cryptocurrency. Then there's another school of thought that thinks that crypto and Bitcoin is a hedge to our traditional markets.
Okay.
How would
So you
you?
have two totally polar opposite schools of thought.
Yes,
Why? I'll answer it like in a different way. Why would it be a hedge on everything else? Why would crypto be the escape hatch for every other risk asset in the world? Why does that make sense?
because I guess well, I'm not saying that I believe this, but the argument that has been posed is
Okay.
being that it is not it's Bitcoin itself is not inflationary, that it's a fixed amount, that if you were to see inflation in fiat currencies, I think McAfee makes this argument,
Mm-hmm.
with some sort of economic disaster with over hyperinflation, people would go towards to something decentralized as opposed to the other markets.
I mean, crypto occupies a very small niche still in the world economic system. For the average mom and pop who have the bulk of the savings in the country here and many of the other nations, Japan and America, same. The bulk of the savings are held in people over 55. Those people are grossly unaware of this marketplace as an escape hatch. They don't know that. Think about your parents. Did they know that crypto should be the place to go in the event of economic collapse, or would they suggest gold?
Right. They would
So
suggest
the
gold.
average person doesn't actually have the nuanced understanding of this being a viable anti-inflationary system to know to migrate. That's not where crypto's awareness level is at this time. The thought process that a collapse in the economic system would result in an exactly reciprocal reaction in crypto is more like wishful thinking, because we're talking about girls just entering the market, and like it's not widely adopted. It's not to the backbone of like things like your cell phone and your video games where you pick it up and you're using it and blockchain is part of your phone. It's at the very introductory phases, and it's not in a place where that becomes the trust vector to move my capital out of a system that I've lost trust in. Bitcoin ultimately has the problem of recourse, right? If I lose $1 million transferring it in Bitcoin, I can't pick up the phone and choke anybody.
Right.
So how in the world would I pull my money from the banking institutions when they start to have a run on the banks and shove it into something that have zero fucking recourse? This a 55-year-old person with like millions in savings is not going to rush to make that decision in the light of a financial crisis. So that logic doesn't fit.
Yep. I agree. I happen to agree with you on that.
See, I gave you an answer. Y'all worried I'm
Yeah.
not going to give you answers?
No, that was a great answer. It's time is rolling. I feel like we're just
Right.
finally hitting our stride now. Now,
That's how it
this
goes,
is,
buddy.
in the beginning, it's kind of a feeling out process. You got to make sure the stream is right, and I think this is going really well. Now, I asked you a question privately, as far as this is not a gotcha.
Okay.
What your group is like, and I don't think it is, but you said
Okay, you're good. Keep going.
you teach people. You don't just teach anybody. You teach people that want to learn, and I forgot the answer exactly that you gave
Not
me.
everybody is
But
teachable.
exactly, you're selective. I mean,
Right.
what? That being said, you
My
clear.
teaching style is not like anybody else's, so I have to be.
All right, but seeing what we've discussed as far as the analysts and the color of faces that we see on TV in
Right.
financial markets and whatnot. Obviously, you're somebody that's a proponent of the minorities, proponent of the people that maybe have not gotten the fair shake. And I've been around long enough. I've lived a diverse life as far as
Right.
in multiple neighborhoods, this and that. I know exactly what you mean, and
Right.
something that I personally would like to do with my life is create a program, a charity, some sort of program to help American underprivileged inner city youths follow through with entrepreneurial dreams, get taught things to think outside of the box. Because,
Right.
like, my oldest son lives in the Bronx. He lives in a
Okay.
bad neighborhood. The school system is not great. We do our best to educate
You
him
got kids
at
old
home.
enough to. Is your kid like old enough to be living on his own?
No, hell no, no,
Oh, I said,
no,
Jesus
no,
Christ,
no,
how old are you?
no, no. I'm
Okay.
33, but
Okay.
my son is in elementary school.
Okay.
However, you know, I've lived in that neighborhood. I've lived in
Mhm.
other neighborhoods. But at the end of the day, I know that the opportunity is not the same as in other places. And there's some people are hustlers. They're going to make it no matter what, and they're going to
Right.
create a business, and they're going to do anything. But I think that whole idea and the notion that you can create something in America and build something is lost upon a lot of these current generations. And then the reason why you see Africans or Asian people or Muslim people from other countries coming to America starting businesses is
Right.
that they look at America as an opportunity. And I think
Right.
there's a lot of young Americans now that don't see it that way. Like, what can we do to fix that, or to at least help that cause?
Um, I try to level the playing field and highlight the inequities of people in positions of power, trying to limit the access to opportunity. Ultimately, a lot of people are psychologically trapped to begin with. They think that they don't have a chance for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with reality, but things they're conditioned to believe. One of the things in my group is that a lot of people, when I interview them, they're like, "Okay, what should I study so I can pass your interview?" And I'm like, "What the fuck would I tell you how to pass the interview for? There's no point to the interview." But the reality is that so many people of different walks of life are convinced that that walk of life is what they're about, and I could never trade because those guys on TV are something different than me. I like dispelling that myth and showing that a repeatable mechanical habit is all that makes this work. If you have discipline and can repeat a consistent habit over time, that is what your results are built on. It's not built on your one-off 20x trade, but it's built on a career of habit. And that can be learned by anybody. An idiot can pull off a good habit. You've seen dumb people that have been very successful. It's not an intelligence thing that makes you successful. It's a discipline thing. And so I like seeing people go from thinking that this is completely not something they'd ever be part of to this is what I do for a living. That's actually quite fun to watch. I've got an itch in the most unbelievable location. Keep going.
Yeah, so it's like, I think that it's
Not gonna
it's,
happen.
it's not just inner cities. It's all over America. You don't see. I mean, speaking of debt and potential problems economically, What do you make of this college? The whole notion of you go to college, you take a big loan, and then you come out and get a shitty job. Like,
I don't think college is always going to yield that, but college and the cost to go to college is quite, education and healthcare as prices don't make relative sense with anything else in the economic system. You can go and stay 2 days in the hospital to have a child, and it's fucking $32,000. Like in 48 hours, you can get a fucking car or have a baby. That doesn't seem like it matches up exactly, but education, costing what it costs in some of the Ivy League schools to get guys that go on TV and sound just as dumb as the crypto pleb is kind of like another problem.
right,
The quality of what you're getting for the cost is going up through the floor. I can tell you that when I was in school, if you plagiarize something, you're going to get ejected from the whole college. Now, most kids are plagiarizing every paper out of Wikipedia and online, and that's totally fine in these online classes because it's about how many people can we push through the education process and for a fee. So you're looking at what education has turned into from what it used to be, and people are not coming out as well equipped, especially if you start comparing country to country.
right,
American standardized testing has become easier and easier in order to push test scores up artificially. But your competitive markets like Korea and that, or got kids going to school 6 days a week or more, are very studious, and the competition between students creates a value arbitrage that the guy who's trained to be a business finance major is 3 times more capable than the one from the American school system who's paying twice the price. So college, what it's turning into, what it is, what it's supposed to be. There's a lot of ways to go in that conversation. I think college teaches you how to beat a system more than how it educates you. The kids today figured out how to pass the class, not how to understand the information in the class. And so if there's a way to cheat your way through things and kind of take the shortcut, most people will. It's path of least resistance, kind of like water.
right,
And the systems in school, they're not really designed to stop that here. They're designed to have a certain pass-through rate to keep their certain accreditations. And so everyone's kind of gaming the system. If everyone was actually working in the best interest of what they said they were doing, it would be a different day. But the idea that the school is not trying to make you the most successful version of the student, they're trying to have a certain pass-through rate and placement rate that ultimately guarantees them the ability to sell the next class. So the motive of the school is part of the problem, not just the cost of what you're getting.
right. And then, well, even further, once they graduate, it's not necessarily the smartest person getting the best job either.
You saw my DM, right? No, the smartest person doesn't get the job. The guy with the right connections gets the job.
Yeah,
That's always how it is.
yeah, yeah. I agree. So that's why I'm so bullish on entrepreneurship in general. And one of the questions I don't want to overlook it and forget. People in the chat are asking about OTC deals because for months you've been hearing about these monster OTC deals occurring. In my opinion, it certainly seems like just an arbitrage play because if you know anything about OTC deals, there's usually a discount involved.
Right.
These large investors are buying block trades, bulk, and buying 10,000 all upwards to 100,000 bitcoins at maybe a 1.5% discount, 2% discount, and then they're able to dump that on the market. A lot of the times they buy at a time that they think the price is also primed to go up a bit. So if the price goes up 3 or 4%, plus they had a 1.5% discount and bought 100,000 Bitcoin, that's a very successful trade. It's not sexy as far as you're not making 10x, but if you're doing it with $1 billion, these types of investors will do that all day. So people are saying OTC is bullish. In your opinion, those type of trades, are you in alignment with me on my assessment here, or do you think
OTC buys being bullish? I mean, to discern the strategy of the buyer is a dangerous thing, right? It could be a buyer that's like think about when Tim Draper bought the first tranche of coins in the auction, and he's buying them at like $600 a coin, and everyone's like, dude, you got fucked. You bought that shit so far over market, and now he looks like a genius. You don't exactly know what the motive of the discount buyer is, and it's dangerous to assume. You would need more data than you've got to tell me what the actual motivation is. If he's using it for a discount, a small push, or if he's accumulating some off market to be seen. That's a dangerous game to play, to make an assumption about information you don't really have the availability to validate. So to speculate based on that and say, well, there are people buying OTC, so what does that mean? That in a nutshell doesn't tell me much, because what if that guy buying OTC is hedging to the CME market, and he's hedging it waiting for prices to stabilize somewhere else, and he's just accumulating and he's knocking off the differential to a hedge? You don't know that. So how can you speculate just on the pure basis of OTC? A guy who's sophisticated enough to buy 10,000 or 100,000 Bitcoins is also smart enough to hedge it.
Right.
So you can't evaluate it like a typical noob investor. Well, if I bought 10,000 coins, it's going up. Hedge funds are called hedge funds for a reason because they fucking hedge. Simple as that, right?
Yeah. Jay Stevens says, "Who the hell is this robot?"
How am I a robot? What?
So
Do I seem a little monotone? This microphone shoved up into my fucking craw right now.
nah,
Go ahead.
man. So we've been going for an hour. I see that you did issue a challenge as far as 2D fighters. I can't wait
What's up?
I can't wait to accept that challenge. I actually recently moved to another country, and I'm waiting on all my shit to come on a freight, which has arrived. So
Okay.
I will have my PS4, I will have my TE edition, and we're going to get it in. I can't
Bring it,
wait.
bitch.
Yeah. Oh man, this guy.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
You
I'm
see the
in.
link? You see my
Yeah.
PSN names on the thing I tweeted. So
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Got your ass whooping at lunchtime, son.
No, not me. I'm gonna wash you up. Yeah, I'll let you talk, but wait till I hit you with that perfect. You're gonna be like, yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Well,
His mix up and his footsies are crazy. We're gonna have to do
footsies.
it.
Oh, I don't play the 5 one so much. I know.
I don't play the 5. I play 4. I play 2.
Yeah, 224. I know the 5 is like all new with like stuff I'd never seen before and shit.
I don't fuck with 5 either.
No, I haven't played that.
I'm more old
That bounce
school.
cat's been kicking the shit out of me in that one because I don't know what I'm doing, but it's I'm gonna catch his ass. Don't worry.
All right. So, I think we're about done. You know what? Like people were making these points. KJ needs to be more prepared. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. You know
It's
what?
a natural convo. I had fun.
Yeah,
This was cool.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, I would like to do it again with more preparation. Honestly, like I think there's more to discuss here, and obviously not for you don't want to give anything out for free, but I think you gave the people
Not that for free. I just want to put effort into it.
Yeah, exactly.
I put it out there. Just go look. I don't have to hand it to you. For Christ's sake, I did the damn research. You go look for it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this, man. I thought it was really cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you, Kaz, for joining Real Talk Crypto.
Sure, man.
I had a ball. I had a blast.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. All right, everyone have a good night. Peace.
See ya.